The Village of Armada regular council meeting will now begin, and as of January 26th, in other words, and we'll all stand for a pledge to the flag, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, call roll, please.
Sturritt?
Here.
Clark?
Here.
Conan?
Here.
Wolak?
Here.
Cooper? Here. Ballard?
Yep.
And Audie is absent.
Next is the approval of the agenda. What is the council's wishes?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Motion carried. At this time, it's for the citizens' comments at this time. If you'd like to address the council. Anyone wishing to address the council?
And I know there's a lot of people here tonight, which we usually don't have, so if everybody can make sure to sign in, please.
Okay, we'll move on forward then. There's no presentations tonight. Next is our administrative reports. F&B report, Mr. Starr, that's your
question. Don't I have a presentation now?
You're on the agenda. You're the first
For the
person
new
on
business.
Oh, okay.
New business.
Thank you.
Yep.
I didn't get an agenda, so it's.
Okay, yep.
Thank you.
Can I go, Mr. President?
Yes,
Okay, today you got caught up with the November and December F&B reports. Hopefully you had time to read them. November's was pretty straightforward. I thought it was interesting that they found a coupling pipe lodged in pump number 1 at the lift station. And we must have accidentally didn't put cement or whatever glue on the pipe. But that seemed pretty straightforward. Only one call out. Nothing of too much of alarm on here. The December one does have a little bit more juice to it, as you can see. And in appendix, what appendix was that? It wasn't in an appendix, it was at the end of this summary. It talks about the incident report, and it has all the detail. As I was telling Trustee Cooper, I have been in contact with Ken and Brian. We were waiting for something to then we could package it all and then bill that business owner. You can see the pictures of it in case you were not able to go there. Photo 1, there's 3 pumps there. This is on page 3 of 6. You can see that was approximately 12 inches of fat, lard, whatever it is in that process. The floats are just dangling there. There's nowhere for them to go. Next page was in the grit room. You can't see it, but there's metal grates there. The stuff was so thick it went through the metal grates and covered the surface. This is the screen. Photo 3 is the screen. It was coming up there. Photo 4 is the drying beds. You can see where they were able to move it to Metro Sewer. So the write-up is there. I will get with Becky tomorrow to see if we got the second bill from Metro Sanitation because there was so much they had to come back a second time. We do have the first. I will verify with Ken and Brian if that is all the charges, that there wasn't something that broke because of it. I just wanted to be certain, and then we'll package it up and get it out. High flows there, that's not uncommon during rain events. I did also have a problem occur. Becky is on top of things, and the other day, the guys must have been reading the meters approximately January 5th or so. Now, you guys don't have a copy of this, but you do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
so
we do.
do you want me to read it out loud or
well,
just for file?
whatever you want to.
To summarize it, there was a high water usage at the grit room in the wastewater treatment plant. It had to do with one of the copper pipes breaking, which caused the leak. They were able to turn it down as much as possible while waiting for a new part to come. The part was repaired. They do believe, in their opinion, that this is related to some of the pipes and the corrosive environment in that facility, which has been identified under the S2 process. And we will be working with our DPW to see if there's a way to fix it and fix that building to get some of the things back to normal. So it was a little bit higher than normal within a couple of days, and Becky caught it because the guys were at the meter. We had the guys go read the meter once more, and that was what it was attributable to. Okay, unfortunate, but things do break.
Okay, very good, Mr.
That was
Stewart.
all I had. Did you have any questions for me? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
Mr. President, I do have the report, and I do have Casey here from Great Lakes Engineering. His report on our Teach Street project, Teach and Prospect Street.
Okay, very good.
Casey?
So I'll give you guys a quick cost estimate, a couple photos.
This is Casey Collins from
Great Lakes
Great Lakes
Engineering.
Engineering.
We applied for funding, I believe it was 2012.
Thank you.
And we applied for, I think it was $297,000 for the Prospect Street superstructure replacement. And the Bridge Council didn't fund the full portion of the Teat Street culvert. But they did put a line item in for an additional $47,000 to somehow maintain traffic over there to allow to open up the dead end during construction. The current estimate of the superstructure replacement is quite a bit under what we had anticipated 3 years ago. And then MDOT has a 20% rule because projects are funded 3 years ahead of time. They give you a 20% window. So using the funded amount plus the 20% overage that we're allowed, it gives us a funding total of $409,200. 5% of that would be local, 95% would be state and federal. I was able to talk to Chris Tennis at MDOT and his supervisor, and because nothing was written exactly prohibiting us from spending more money on the Teat Street culvert, they're going to allow us to use that funding. So we're ready to submit plans in April, and DEQ, or for an April letting about 2 or 3 weeks ago, DEQ flagged 2 items that they want to change on the permit. They want us to go with a bigger culvert than what we were anticipating, and a threatened or endangered species may be in the area, so we have to do a environmental study with a biologist. Looking at that, we looked at what are our options. Ideally, we'd like to put a concrete box culvert in, which has a very long design life, but we don't have enough funding for that. We can do a aluminum or steel box culvert, which would give us close to the same design life, and we can fit within our budget, or we can kind of bypass the whole DEQ thing and do a temporary bridge, but then we're spending money and not actually accomplishing anything long term. So I gave you cost based on my current engineer's estimate. Unfortunately, I'm not a contractor, so I don't know what the bids are going to come in exactly, but it gives us a pretty good ballpark of where we're at. The second sheet shows the difference between a concrete box culvert and the aluminum box culvert. They're actually fairly nice looking considering they're steel. So far, everybody that's putting them in is very happy with them. They're a lot faster to construct, easier for the guys, which brings the cost down significantly. And then the third handout is the muscle that may or may not be in our stream. What DEQ is going to require us to do is do a study of the stream. I think it's 50 meters downstream and 25 meters upstream, and have a biologist come in and look for this mussel. I talked to Michigan State Extension.
It's like a clam.
It's like a little plant,
Yeah.
and it's about maximum size is 1.5 inches, so they're pretty hard to find even if they are there. And they burrow about 6 inches down into the soil in the stream, so unless you're a biologist and really know what you're doing, finding them is pretty impossible, but, I
How
did,
much is it, study?
I talked to the MSU Extension, and they gave me a verbal price. They said we could do a formal price if you guys accept. But it was $2,400 to do the study where they come in for a day and actually pick up rocks in the stream and really look for these things. There's an expert that does it. There's a couple consultants that we can do that as well, but they tend to be a little bit more expensive and harder to get scheduled.
There's only a certain period of time.
Yeah,
that
it's
you
got to
can
be
do
done
this.
between June 1st and August 31st. It's the only time you can look for them.
So we can't do any construction till that's done?
Correct.
And if they are found,
If they're found, then we have to pay to relocate them depending on how many they find.
For 50 feet downstream and 25 feet upstream, we have to relocate just those?
Yes,
Yes.
just those.
and there's
The
another,
instructions
there's
on-
another creature
Yeah.
that looks pretty close to these.
Yeah, they're a little bit bigger, but they look almost the same, but they're a different species, so they're not threatened, but these ones are.
This is great stuff.
So, I guess to move the project forward, we need to decide, do we want to still try to do a culvert and open this up permanently? We have the funding to do so, but the study's a non-participating item.
We have to wait.
Yeah, and then if they are found, it could be up to $5,000 to relocate them. If there's a whole bunch of them, if there's 2 or 3, they'll just do it with the study. More than likely, they're not gonna find them, but it's kind of one of those, we don't know until we're there, and we can't tell until June.
Is this in the culvert or is this on the bridge?
This isn't the culvert on the bridge, we're actually staying above the ordinary high water mark, so where they're more than likely to be. We're not doing any work in the river, so we're exempt from that requirement.
And what is the projected life of the concrete box culvert and the aluminum or steel box culvert?
The box culvert, I think they prorate for 50 or 60 years. And the aluminum one, they had some put in many years ago with a bad coating and they rusted fairly quick. The new ones have a new coating and depends on what salesman you ask, but they should last 40 or 50 years anyways.
And what, is there a different weight limit obviously on them too?
I know either one would be designed for full highway loading, so you
Okay,
need garbage
so-
trucks across, fire
Okay.
trucks, school buses, anything you needed.
So how much bigger do they want the culvert to be than what we thought we were gonna put in?
It's got to have the slightly more end area than what's there now. What's there now is a 9.9 foot span and about a 5 foot rise. So we sized one for pricing at I think it was a 13.5 foot span, or not quite 13 foot span, 6 foot rise, because it has a structural floor and the DEQ wants that buried at least a foot. That way fish or anything else that go up the stream 50 feet past this where it kind of goes to a trickle can at least go through. And so we have to go with a little bit bigger size to bury it. So any questions, thoughts, or?
How much are they giving us for the culvert?
The culvert was initially 47,000
Mm-hmm.
was what they were initially awarded, but because we're under on the Prospect Street project, under what we projected, and they'll let us use the 20% over, so that allows us approximately 143,000 for that crossing.
Okay.
So almost 100,000 more than what was initially projected, so.
So what's this do to your schedule? I mean,
Schedule, other than we missed the April letting and we'll go to the May letting, really it may slow construction down about 2 weeks to wait for the study.
oh, okay.
So we'd be starting mid-June if all goes well, or maybe the 3rd week of June.
So if council next week, or next meeting, makes the motion to go forward with the study, you can contact them right
Yeah.
away, and does that get us higher, like more in June than
Yeah,
end
he's
of
got nothing on the
August?
schedule yet,
Okay,
so if you guys want to pursue that option, I'll have them send a formal proposal over for next meeting, that way you can get it on the agenda
Yeah.
and approve it accordingly.
No, it's not an agenda item, but should we be approving it today?
No.
we don't have a proposal yet.
We don't have a formal
Yeah,
proposal,
we need,
so.
yeah, we need
Oh,
a
okay,
formal
okay.
proposal.
When you request a formal proposal, can you have them pencil us in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're already penciled in just in case.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first week weather depending, if there's high
Right,
water, they can't do
understand.
it, so it might, but we'll write the progress clause accordingly to make sure that the contractor knows when they can start and
Yeah.
they can proceed with the project. And
Well, the first question Casey had was just if you're interested in doing that, you know, if you wanna go forward with the study and scrap the Teat Street Bridge, or if you wanna go forward with the study and finish the
You
bridge.
have to go.
We gotta get
Yes.
it done.
Yeah.
It's a small
Casey?
price to pay to get that thing done.
With all the combined
Federal government.
funds and everything now, do we have a match on it?
Yeah, you'll have 5% match of
5% Still stands, okay.
the 409 plus design engineering, construction engineering is
Okay,
non-participating.
okay.
You mentioned they're gonna be looking for two things, other than this muscle, what's the other thing?
No, the first thing was that the bridge had to be, they
Bigger.
They wanted-
Oh, I thought
flagged
that there
two
were two
things.
species of things.
No, no,
No.
no, there's a species that looks just
Very
pretty
similar,
close
yeah.
to it, which just adds
Yeah.
to their,
Okay,
the
If I were to
biologist's
look at it,
times.
I would confuse the two, but the
But the one
biologists know better.
species is okay?
Yes.
Yeah, the one is not threatened, the
Yeah.
smaller one is.
okay.
Can somebody tell me the name of this endangered mussel? Just
That's
for-
a slipper shell
Slipper
mussel. Slipper shell.
Thank you.
So are we fine budget-wise on doing one of these options now? Okay.
Yeah, it just,
And what is the timeline difference between the concrete box and the aluminum or steel box?
I think the concrete box will probably take a week longer during construction.
A week?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just they have to pour head walls and footings, and it's a bigger excavation.
Okay.
The aluminum box, they can actually bring on site, assemble it, and then as soon as they start digging the one, get the water main moved, they can just set it in place with an excavator. It's a really light structure, so.
I feel like I've seen some of these aluminum ones, when you're out driving, you see that, they've obviously done some new bridges.
Yeah.
They're using like these oval-shaped aluminum ones.
Yeah, these are a little bit different. They're
Yeah.
more, they try to get more waterway area towards the bottom where it's important. And
So it must be, I mean, like, when you see, because this is more along your expertise, how often do people go with the aluminum versus the concrete?
right now with the pricing on the concrete ones, I think we're gonna see a trend toward the aluminum.
Gotcha.
They went up in price about 50% in the last 2 years, the concrete ones, so it makes the aluminum faster and it's a better value at this point.
Right.
St. Clair County's put 5 in the last couple of years. So MDOT kind of threw it out there that this is something they see that they're liking. People are very happy with them right now, so.
Is it easier to damage the aluminum?
As long as we get scour protection, there's really no difference between the two. They'll be designed for full highway loading, so unless a tree comes through and hits it and dents it, there's not much else that can really happen.
Okay.
it's not gonna be that traveled of an area.
I'm not
you
worried
know,
about that,
yeah.
I'm worried about vandals, that's all.
Yeah,
Yeah, they will put it in the spec that they have to damage the threads the contractor does, that way the kids can't blow the nuts off of it,
mhm, yeah.
because that's happened before.
Okay, that's what I was worried about.
Good idea.
So-
Nope.
No, good idea to damage
Oh.
them.
Yeah, they usually destroy the threads, they can't be backed out.
Right.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, so
Sounds
I
good.
guess the next meeting we'll bring back the proposals.
Yeah, I'll probably get that within the next
Yep.
few days, send it over.
Okay.
You guys want to go out for bids with multiple, get a couple consultants and the state agency, or just go with the state agency?
I
think
think
it's-
it's the state
well,
agency.
Considering the first price you gave me was about $7,000
Yeah.
to do the study, 2,500 is,
Yeah.
we're pleasantly
Yeah.
surprised, yeah.
Okay, I'll have them get a formal proposal over then. And
Great.
you guys want to go with the aluminum or
Oh,
steel?
absolutely, I'd go with the
I would say
aluminum.
so.
The price difference is
I'm leaning more
significant.
toward the concrete myself.
Are you really?
Mm-hmm. Just if we're gonna do it, we might as well get something that's gonna last longer.
I'll take the Buick instead of the Cadillac. I really will.
My only thing is that we have the other road projects,
Right.
and, if those go over, one's gonna cost us an extra 80,000 roughly, and,
What if the construction costs come in even lower?
well, is there a way we,
Do we have to have that decision made
Can
by
we have
next
an
week, by the
A&B?
next meeting, or no?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
need to get DEQ
Yeah.
on board with whatever structure we choose. We'll have to decide which one, and then they'll issue the permit accordingly.
You don't need to know that tonight?
I'd be nice if I did.
Yeah, all right.
That way I want to try to submit, I think we need to have plans stemmed out on February 10th.
Yeah,
So,
Do we need
well,
to
that's
vote
up to
on
you
it?
guys. I don't know if you have to vote on it, I mean, that's up to you if you want to. I mean,
I'd make a motion to
We
do
can't.
go with,
I prefer not to do, you
Or an
know,
administrative
Yeah.
report,
no.
you'd have to add it to the agenda.
which we've already approved with no changes.
Mr. President?
I think next meeting, in other words, we should probably go.
I don't know that we have till next meeting. Our next meeting's February, we've got a calendar, 2 weeks from tonight, February 8th.
We can poll the board and then make a formal motion on it at the next
Sure.
meeting. At least then he knows what the poll comes in at.
I think in agreeance already. I think the council is really going with that idea of the aluminum anyhow. So I think, in essence, I think it's part of your answer right there.
You said it's aluminum all the time.
Yeah, so.
You go up north here,
Yeah.
the roads, you see them all the time.
You have a valid point, I'm not gonna disagree with you. If it did come in less, it would be nice to have the cement, but
But I think the overall
Just don't
general
know.
consensus right now of our
Yeah.
council right now is the aluminum, so. And naturally, we always like a Rolls Royce or something, but it's not gonna happen, so.
At least when I get the
Concrete
Jeep.
and Rolls Royces.
Oh.
Ben, you have
Let's
a
talk
question?
resale.
Yeah, how thick is this corrugated material?
I don't remember
No,
off the
you're
top
not.
of my head, but it's fairly significant. And then it's reinforced that you can't see up on the top of the ribs, there's reinforcement bars.
No, but if this is the skin, so that's gonna hold the dirt in?
Yeah,
So
and then the
without-
structure's kind of behind it hidden.
Yeah, okay, so with this, with the coating, with this sheet metal, so whatever that is, if that starts to deteriorate, so then my question is what's that thickness?
It's aluminum, and I would have to look it up, I'm not sure.
And what's
It's-
it coated with?
That I don't know for sure.
Okay, the only thing I would say as a fab guy, I'd make sure what your material thickness is and what your coating is, because salt
Oh, yeah.
is really bad on aluminum. So you salt the roads, salt's gonna get on this, find out what your coating is.
The biggest issue we have is the water line, the abrasion from the sand will take the coating off, and that's where we'll see the first corrosion on it.
Okay. Just my 2
in
cents.
your expertise, so what's a good thickness?
Well,
Concrete.
but concrete, you might not, concrete was a rarity this fall. So, I mean, there's our customers that shut down because they couldn't get concrete this fall. Not that it was at a high price, they just couldn't get it. So concrete's gonna be,
Concrete's gonna be expensive this year.
Well, if the lifespan too, you said it'd probably be about 40, 50 years too, right?
Yeah.
Look at that.
You know, is that replacement then too? I mean, you know, in figuring the years to come?
You can always line it later too. You know, they make like a resin liner that you can put in, that we're putting in round and elliptical pipes at this point. So at that point, you just slip a liner through and expand it in, and buy yourself another, however long that'll last. And
Well, in other words, for a price, I mean, we're saving half now. What about, you know, lining it? That isn't gonna cost that much, is it?
a liner on this side is probably gonna be probably 40 or 50 grand.
But you're talking 40 or 50 years from now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we don't need to line it right away. Wait
Right.
until
No,
there's
no,
some
right,
stress.
yeah, I
Okay.
understand that,
Alright.
but then the thing is, you know, years to come, you know, you're saving 80,000 now, and then if it's gonna cost you 40 to 50 or something, where's
Yeah,
that
buy another 20 or
later?
25 years.
You got a savings,
Yeah.
that's my point.
Ed, do you have anything?
I'd be a little concerned about ice flowing down, maybe scouring out, denting it, cutting into it.
Is there really, and I'm just asking,
There's
because
some high
I've not
flows
been
when it's
in that
flooded.
creek, but I mean, I know the one side is deeper, but isn't before it a ditch, pretty much?
It's a ditch, but there's a lot of flow in there when the fields are wet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of water comes down there.
Is there any grading that goes on it to keep any big debris from going in?
No, it's gonna have a fairly sharp turn coming into it. We're gonna try to lessen that from what's there now, but there still will be a pretty sharp curve, so it's hard for anything of too much size to actually get inside.
It looks like there's a lot of ribs in it, what I call them ribs.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that would help if there's ice for the indentation. I mean, that's what I sort of think as such, you know.
Yeah, most of the like multi-plate arches that have been in service for 40 years, we've never had any issues with ice. I think this will be, the aluminum typically ends up a little bit thicker than the steel does, just for the same strength properties. So I don't think ice would be an issue. It'd be more the abrasion right at the water line that I would be concerned with long term. That's something we watch with the inspection cycles, so.
Okay. Council all set with that then?
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Like a spray concrete.
I don't know if Ed wants to talk about it or if they can talk about
Good, we've done that as a patch.
it. Your planning commission stuff.
I got
Spray
something,
with,
yeah, we got something in the agenda, but I got something on the stop back.
Yes, go ahead, Dave, you want to?
Okay,
Go ahead.
under the planning commission reports, just like to urge the council to look at the 214 and 215 reviews and intentions. Also to review the meeting minutes of 12/1. And I'd also like to tell you, normally the planning commission meetings are the first Monday of the month of February. Our planning commission meeting is gonna be on Wednesday, February the 11th. So, just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Very good. Anything else?
No, we got some more doing the new business.
Okay, next is the general business, which would be for the consent agenda. What is the council's wishes?
Mr. President, I'll move the consent agenda to be accepted as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Discussion.
I have to abstain because of the meeting minutes.
Wasn't taken.
Do you just want to abstain from the minutes?
Minutes.
Yes, if that would be.
Paying the bills or the.
Yeah.
Acceptable.
B and C could
Okay.
participate in that. Okay. What is the council wishes, a yea, an nay?
You need to take a vote first.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to take a roll call vote.
No, just,
No.
yeah.
All
Yes,
ayes.
Am I in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? If not, motion carried. So, no old business in Michigan, new business, a Michigan back roads contract. And Michelle, you've been in contact with,
I have, and I believe Ron. Okay, I have Ron here. I'm gonna just give a brief reminder to everybody. Back in 2011, the village, the DDA, and the township joined Michigan Back Roads, Terrific Towns. Everybody paid a third. Everybody paid $375. Our DDA at this point does not have money to spend, so I'm sure that they are not going to be interested, or not that they're not interested, but able to participate. The township, they don't have a meeting until after ours, so they haven't committed to it either at this time. I have talked to Ron a couple of times about it. That's why he's on the agenda. He wanted to come and talk to council to see if you're still interested. For the most part, what this does is promotes our area to try to entice people to come out and, you know, obviously spend money in the businesses and visit our town and visit our events. I don't know what the pricing is, if it's still the same for this year, because I didn't get a copy of the contract yet. But I have to assume if it is, I mean, we're talking $750 or so for the village's portion, unless the DDA's, the township would split it in half. So that's where we're at. I'm gonna let Ron talk to you guys a little bit about it and have you guys decide what you wanna do then.
And I'll be as brief as I'm capable of being. I'll tell you what Michigan Back Roads does and why it works. And I'll give you some, I brought some history with me of what we've done in the past. The Michigan Back Roads is an organization that's dedicated to promoting small towns and out-of-the-way places in Michigan. That's what we do. On MichiganBackroads.com, there are 400 pages of road trips throughout Michigan without ever mentioning the words Traverse City. We had 100,000 people use Michigan Back Roads last year alone, looking for places to go and things to do. I also operate a website called UpNorthMichigan.com, which is where all of our trails and natural wonders are. I have a web magazine called TravelinMichigan.com that is people subscribe to by email. We have a subscription list of just over 6,000 worldwide who take that email every month. The reason this works is pretty simple. When I was growing up in Dewitt, Michigan, if we were going to go somewhere, to a festival, to an event, to just on a road trip, my folks would go to AAA and get a trip ticket. Say, we're going to go over to this part of Michigan, what is there to do around it? Nobody does that anymore. Today they Google it. And if you've not heard of Armada, you can't Google Armada. If you've not heard of the Armada Fair, you can't Google it. So every month, thousands of people go onto Google, and you can do it right now if you've got a laptop here, and put in Michigan Getaway Vacations, Michigan Road Trips, Michigan Day Trips, Up North Michigan, Michigan Attractions, Michigan Festivals. All those phrases I just said were on the first page of Google for it. And dozens of other ones. And so when people go looking for some place to go today, or next week, or next weekend, if they're looking for a back roads type of destination, they're going to find MichiganBackroads.com, they're going to click on it, and on that website, everything is designed to send people to the terrific towns section, which is where Armada has been. We only do 2 towns per county. We look for very specific things. We're looking for some unusual things in the town, which you have. And I found out tonight you may have an endangered Star Wars mussel.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Which hopefully you don't have it because it could hold up the works.
Yeah.
They might want reinforced concrete if you have the mussel. But you have some very unusual things here. You also have a beautiful town. You have great architecture. You have good food. You got the Armada Fair. You got close-in industry where people are manufacturing products here. These are all the kinds of things that Michigan Back Roads writes about. You have the other things, it's not just tourism, it's also quality of life. I'll just tell you briefly, as I can. I had dinner at Chat's again tonight. I was here last week to talk to the Armada Business Association. I'll be here next week, this is updating this, to talk to the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, okay.
I've not had any luck with is it the township?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had any luck getting into that yet, but I'm coming back again. So I'm over at Chat's having dinner, and in the middle of it, at my age, I suddenly realized I had to go to the bathroom. In a lot of other towns, this would have created a problem because on the table was a laptop, state-of-the-art, sitting in that bag right there, a smartphone, my notebooks, research materials, and in other places I would have had to pack all that stuff into a bag and take it to the bathroom with me. I didn't do that here, I didn't even think about it. I got up, it's a wonderful place. This is the quality of life kinds of things that we look for. It may sound hokey to you, but it's really important to people who are traveling with families and people who are coming in from foreign countries like Canada or Ohio. You know, they don't know what they're going to run into. So that is what we do. Now, this contract has expired, but a lot of this has been my problem getting my schedule to be able to get here and talk to everybody. I'm going to give you, as soon as I tell you a couple other things that we do, I'm going to give you the traffic report on the kind of traffic that the Terrific Town section for Armada has enjoyed. Every page that I create, we record all the page views all year long, and I have the 2014 page view report here. There are 2 other things that I personally do to promote getting people to Michigan Back Roads. Not only do we have these very excellent Google rankings, I'm also a writer. I've written 4 books about out-of-the-way places and road trips in Michigan. I think I gave a set to the ABA the other night. They're going to donate them to the library for me. And I'm writing a 5th book right now. I have another one that's planned, which also includes Armada in it, but the new book will be out in March. So we sell thousands and thousands of books. They're all written in such a way that some information is left out. So you need to go to the website to get the rest of the information. It's a very nasty marketing play. It works great. Sell thousands of books. I'm also a public speaker. I do a live program somewhere in Michigan almost every week. If you go to Michigan Back Roads, look at my speaking schedule, you'll see I'm speaking in libraries and museums all over the state sometimes twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, somewhere, starting in the middle of February. It'll go right on through, all the way through November, which is then I'll stop for 6 weeks. So there's a lot of marketing that goes on to help promote getting people to come to the website. So I'm going to pass these around. Each of these pages, it shows the name of the page and then the time it was viewed in 2014. I didn't bring all 3 years of history. I thought this would give us an idea. When this was first sold to the village and the DDA and the township, we vowed that we would be able to send 100 visitors per month to the terrific town section for Armada. Because of the improvements in the way that we do things and just a lot of factors, we're way over that now. And, that's a contract, you probably don't want that. Do you have a checkbook with you?
I was gonna say, he's the
Oh,
one
then
who
you don't
wanted
want
to
the
give it to you.
He's the one with the contract. And I only have one of these left, but I'll give you guys can pass it around. By the way, this is the picture of the cover of the new book. This is 3-day getaways. There are 27 chapters. And then the next book that's coming out is going to be Michigan Oddities and Rarities, which actually has one destination in Armada. So there's a lot of marketing that's going on. Now, that's how the program works. This is the kind of traffic that we produce. And these pages are always being updated. There are several new pages I want to add, but I won't know until all the various organizations decide to participate or not. When we did this 3.5 years ago now, you guys took a 3-year contract. I believe it was $750. The prices have gone up a little bit, and I'll tell you what the prices are. A 1-year program, and I've got copies of those with me, but a 1-year program is $500. 2 years is $700. A 3-year program is $900. Now we've added a 5-year program. The village of Baldwin asked me to put in a 5-year program because they were tired of having me come there every 3 years. They're on their 4th contract now. They said, look, we're going to do it. Can we just pay you off for 5 years and not have to hear your speech every 3 years? So we put in a 5-year program, which is a great deal. It's $1,250. Now all these pages can be added to. All these pages can be updated through the entire term of the contract with no cost. If something happens in town that someone will let me know about, it's going to end up on the website. Armada is going to be featured in the web magazine at least once every year. And when you go to Michigan Back Roads and look at the terrific towns section, you'll see there are only 60 or 70 of these towns. We only do 2 per county. If they don't meet our criteria, we don't even go talk to them. And some counties don't have 2 towns that meet the criteria. So it's not like you're fighting the clutter of everybody else. Everybody can't just come in and buy the 6 pages that this calls for. We agree to 6 pages. You got more than that, and obviously I want to expand on it. So that's how that goes. I'm going to tell you that's the prices. I'll give you a copy of this, and anybody else who wants one, and I'll be glad to take any questions about what we're doing, what we're trying to do, and how it works.
When you talked to the ABA, was there an interest?
We couldn't afford the whole thing, so there's an interest, but only if we're just a partial participant.
So if the Chamber of Commerce said that they'd like to go in on it?
Well, then we still I don't think we
Still
have
too
enough
much?
money to do that. But if it was a 3-way split, then that's possible.
One thing I have for you is, there's, I think, 3 businesses
Right.
on here that are Armada
Right.
Village. The other ones are outside of the village jurisdiction. Like Haunted Hollow was in the township, Orchard Country, Seven Ponds is 30-minute drive from here.
Right.
Bacchus Pie is the township, Armada Rubbers township. Who is hitting Armada Grain and Paddock Mold if they're gonna go drive to see the beautiful countryside?
Well,
You're saying that there's 269 hits for Armada Grain, Paddock Mold 250 hits. We're trying to look at our user, our person who's going to click to get to us. The people who are hitting Armada Grain and Armada Mold or Paddock Mold are not out for a Sunday joyride.
Right.
Who are those users? Who are the people hitting those
Those are
sites?
people who are interested in products that are made in Michigan. We have part of the site partitioned off for made in Michigan, which is a big thing these days. You know, products that are made in Michigan, they're not imported, they're made here. And one of the things that we did with this was, at the time that this contract was signed, part of the deal was any business that actually manufactured something in town, in this region, because we look at things regionally, not just the town of Armada, but you know, the outlying areas. We want to get people to come downtown, but if someone made something, like the pie company, or the Armada grain, we did the pie company first. The deal was we would add as many of those made in Michigan pages as you wanted without any additional charge. When we did I did the pie company first, and on the second or third traffic report, because we send these traffic reports 3 times a year. I think it was Michelle, maybe it was somebody else, got back and said, well, you know, we've got these other manufacturing places here in town. And so I went and visited the
Armada rubber.
I went and Armada grain and Patrick Mold and looked at them to make sure that they did actually make things. And then without them even knowing it, I sat down and wrote a very simple write-up about this company that's in this town in Michigan that's actually manufacturing things here in Michigan. And that's what people look at. Obviously, you can see it's not as popular as the main page. It's not as popular as the Armada Fair. When I do the part about John Huff, that's going to be the most popular. I already know because of all the things that we've done. So they're there to show, this goes back to quality of life. In the town that I live in Bellevue, Michigan, very small town, 1,400 people. And the number one question we get from people who are thinking about moving there is what is there for kids to do in that village outside of the school system. They're looking for quality of life things. We don't get any questions about in-close manufacturing because we don't have it. Everybody who lives in Bellevue either works in Battle Creek or works in Lansing or works in, that's what kind of community we have. But in communities where we have like this, where we have in-close manufacturing, there's a lot of interest in it. But they're certainly not interested in looking at it for tourism. Listen, we did a page for, in Gladstone, if you go to tourism council, look at Gladstone, the city of Gladstone has 600 acres on Lake Michigan for sale. It has a deep water port, be a great place for a manufacturing plant. They asked us to do a page there called Business Development in Gladstone. I had no idea whether anybody's going to look at it or not. It's way up. People look at that page all the time. They've actually had people call the city to get more information about that. So this website, we don't know who's looking at it. As an example, someone could be coming here on a vacation to this part. They could be coming to Romeo, they could be going to the Ford, they could be going to an Orchard Drive, they could be doing anything in this area. This is Orchard Country to people in Ohio and Illinois. That's what this area is. And when they find Michigan Backroads, we don't know. The people coming who are going on vacation could be thinking about moving a business here, could be thinking about retiring out of Chicago and getting into a beautiful small community where they can open a business like a Squirrel Away Books or like a, so having them included, I can't tell you who those people were, I can't backtrack to see who they actually were, but we get this kind of consistency throughout the website when we are talking about something that's made in Michigan. Even down to things like U-Pick farms and things like that. It was started 14 years ago. I started it as a tourism website. That was the idea, was that where I had traveled, there were all kinds of things in Michigan that I had found that my wife didn't know anything about, people didn't know anything about them because they don't show up on TV, they don't show up on Pure Michigan, they don't show up there. So I began to do this to promote those areas that are sometimes overlooked. And it was done from a tourism point of view. The idea about having Made in Michigan pages came from client towns who said, well, we've got jobs here. Let people know we've got jobs here too, and not just the tourism. I don't think that Armada is probably on anybody's top list of a tourism destination necessarily, except for a couple of times a year.
How often do you send out your, wasn't it once a month you send out an email blast to everyone?
Right, once a month.
Okay, and being that I was in the president chair, I got those a lot. I'm not sure if anyone else signed up for those or if it came because I was the president. But I specifically looked around the August timeframe because I knew that was Armada Fair, and not once in the 3 years that we'd had this contract was there Armada Fair listed on there. So I was just wondering why that didn't come to be, because I thought you mentioned before that you were definitely going to be doing the Armada Fair around August.
If I said that 4 years ago and you remember it, I'll take your word for it. I don't remember saying that I was, because of the way we've always done this, and this is one of the things that we're trying to improve. Each town is supposed to be featured once a year. Now, everybody has a festival in August. So what we've always said to each town was, if you want to have something featured in a specific month, let me know and we'll put it in our database and make sure that it gets there.
Right.
So unfortunately, I don't know that we've never featured Armada Fair in
I
August.
looked every time in August.
I believe you,
Yeah.
I believe you. And that can be corrected. In fact, what we've had to do with some months of the year is the newsletter email blast right now has 7 categories in it. And what we've had to do for a couple of months of the year is eliminate all those categories and just feature festivals. So if Armada stays in this program, I'll write it down right now, I'll correct that oversight. Because I know that it's a major, it's a major event in town, so we don't want to miss those.
Right.
So if the village itself doesn't participate, but the ABA does and the Chamber of Commerce and the township, even the Armada Fair, I don't know if you would approach them to.
I'm going to stay on this as long as I mean, ordinarily, it only takes a couple of these meetings to solve one of these, especially these kinds of prices. I'm coming 3 times this month. If I need to go to the Armada Fair and see if they'll participate, listen, I like the town enough that if none of these organizations will do it, I'm going to come back here and go door to door to the businesses and try and get each business to put up $125 until I have enough of them to do it.
Right.
I mean, I've had to do that before.
Yeah.
But the Armada Fair has never contributed.
Well, I'm just
They do a lot
wondering.
of their own advertising.
Yeah, they do.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
they do. I'm not putting them on the spot. I
Right.
just didn't know if he would go to another entity because we have the Chamber of Commerce, we have the Business Association.
Right.
Those are only 2 what I would call civic groups in the town, and I know that the ABA, they just raise the money that they need to do the events that they do.
Right, right.
I'm not sure about the Chamber of Commerce, but
Yeah, I'm going to talk to everybody that I can, so we can determine whether or not the organizations in town see this as a viable marketing tool
Right.
for the way you're trying to market the town. If it's not, then it's just not.
right.
Thank you. I think at this time, we've had a lot of information, we've had a lot of experience, in the past years that this was, we participated in. I think at this time, I'm looking at money now, we had some information given to us by our clerk, and which we were paying $375 and doubling it now because of our DDA problem, or the village council would have to pick up, so it'd be, more money again. And now we're hit with $500 for a year. There's an increase there, from $375 to $500
No, sir, the 375 is for 3 years.
Yeah,
for 3 years.
yeah, you're just
Okay.
getting less time.
Yeah.
Less time, okay.
Yeah, if you take the 3-year contract, then for 3 organizations, it would be $300 for each organization, which would cover 3 years.
All right, so I think with the increase, myself, I am looking forward to the fact that, on the review report here, there's 4 businesses that are in the township, and I think if they, would want to go into it, I think they should do it instead of us, in my opinion.
Mr. President, my opinion kind of goes along with what you're saying, but we've kind of set up the Business Association and the Chamber to kind of handle more of these type of events. They're there to build the businesses, make sure it's good for them. I don't want to be in the business of running businesses and making their decisions, so I would say, go to them. If you guys want to participate, you and the other ones, I'm not just picking on the one that you're in, Mr. Galecki. Let them make the decision if it's a good investment, and let them go with it.
Well, the DDA, when the DDA participates, I think it was the DDA that you
Right,
came
it
to
was the
first.
DDA that was
The DDA was kind of in the business to do that at that time, to promote the
Right.
businesses and stuff. Unfortunately, there's just no
They,
money.
they had marketing in their budget.
Yes, yeah, and unfortunately, it's
And
not
they're
there
they don't
anymore.
have marketing or anything else in their budget anymore.
Right.
They could, they're gonna run out of money completely.
They're-
I understand how it works. I sit on the president of the DDA,
Okay.
so I understand how these things work. So I'm just glad you guys let me come and show you what the situation is. I've talked to the ADA, I'm gonna come back and talk to the chamber, try to put this together.
Get a hold of the township.
We, you know, if you add up these numbers, each of these viewers is costing you about 10 cents. I mean, 3,000 visitors a year, 3 or 4, 10 people are looking at something about Armada every single day who wouldn't have heard about you any other way. So from a cost standpoint, there's very little marketing you can do that has this reach at this price. On the other hand, it may not be something that the village is supposed to be investing in, I understand it, but you guys are the ones who know the town, you guys know everybody in town, and so I'm gonna come back and talk to each group and tell that story.
We do have our own website too, so that I think is a real benefit to us too also at this time. So there is a motion prepared here. What is the council's wishes?
Silence.
Sounds like complete silence.
Yeah, that's
So
Butters.
Making a motion.
unusual.
it denies for lack of motion and support.
So I hope
Thank
you
you,
won't
sir.
think me rude, I got about 2.5 hours, so I'm gonna take off.
Yeah, no,
But
thank you,
I
Ron.
appreciate
You're
you
welcome.
coming in.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Good to
thank
see
you.
everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.
You want to leave too, you feel free to leave, Casey. You need to stay.
Being entertained,
Well,
obviously.
if he hears that we don't have the money, our project would be better.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath.
Okay, let's see. We have business use for the village parking lot for deliveries. That's Article B. What is,
I put this under Ben.
Well, can we
Mr.
defer to
Galecki?
Galecki?
Yes,
Or Mr.
I would say
Galecki?
so. He's not listening.
Mr. Galecki on the business for parking of our village parking lot use?
I put that
Did
under
you-
you.
Okay, so I'm supposed to say something now?
Yeah,
Okay.
You were gonna say something.
I gave it to him.
Much to Dave's chagrin. This agenda item is for the Ezo property new applicant. So it's the C2 zoned area and industrial user. So it could be approved under a special approval land use. But the planning commission didn't want to approve something of this nature without coming to council first. So the applicant and the owners are both here this evening to kind of, and I would hope that they could speak in their behalf. But what they'd have to do for a loading and unloading area, they have the property to do the unloading and loading, but they have no way to get to it. So they'd have to traverse through the village parking lot with semi-trucks, which would be a van-type semi-truck for pickups and steel flatbeds for deliveries. So both of those would have to go through the parking lot. So again, we didn't want to authorize that from planning. We wanted council to do that since they'd have to go through, their only access to that property to unload and unload on their own property would be the village parking lot. And to use the alley, a steel truck is a flatbed and you unload from one side and then possibly the other side, depending on which side the truck is loaded. So with a one-way alley, sometimes you could come in this way, sometimes you'd have to come in the other way, sometimes you unload this side and then you have to unload that side. And then a van trailer, you load or unload from the rear. So, and all those would have to be done with some type of a lift, high load, I think. So, how about,
Yeah.
Your turn.
Good evening, my name's Dean Downing. We're actually the applicant that wants to put this business in the city. The good news is we won't cost you anything. The nature of my work is important to understand because framing the issue of use of the parking lot is relative to the demand that we have. The nature of my work is probably most similar to a cabinet or a woodworking shop. We have raw material come in. It's not a big part of what I do. We take orders through the front door, we build it the back door, and we do one of two things. We either go install that finished product, or we put it on a truck and ship it out of state. Scale matters. I've tried expressing in the planning board that the number of times which I have delivery vehicles picking up a display or dropping off that raw materials, I can count on one hand how many times they come in a month. So scale is, we don't have a lot of use, we just need to use. Also relative to scale is the kind of weights or products involved. The description is well put that a steel hauler is different than a trailer van or a full-size semi-truck. But the product which I use, the finished goods, weighs 250 pounds. We're not talking about steel haulers coming in and coils of steel and I-beams and heavy use. In fact, my deliveries come with smaller delivery trucks. I have a picture of one of the delivery trucks. I took it today. I'd like to share that with you. So in terms of scale, we have very little use or demand for that access. And the access which we do need is relatively small. We are not heavy fabricators. My main tools are hands. We hand form some metals. Sheet metal, lightweight aluminum, all my work's aluminum. The delivery that came in today was 2 sheets of aluminum, not coils and skids. So I hope that understanding that the nature of the work, the demand on the use or the access is both limited and lightweight by nature. I'd love to answer any other questions you have. I do have a couple of handouts if you wouldn't mind.
Making signs, right?
Yes, sir. It's signs and displays.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have enough to these go all the way around, but
We can share here.
Yes, thank you.
There's 2 pages there. One page shows a photograph of the village, along with a couple of delivery vehicles there for the existing merchants in town. And below that is a photograph of the delivery truck that we received today. You can see that the delivery truck that we received is a smaller flatbed. It's not a cab or a trailer like the full-size delivery vehicles or common carriers. The photograph up on top, I took a couple weeks ago. I just happened to be in town and I'm standing right there. I said, look, there's 2 full-size semi-trucks in the village blocking traffic or using parking lots already. We're not requesting anything or any privilege that's not already extended to the other merchants in town. We're not asking for a special use. We just need access to be able to do our business. The second sheet, which shows an aerial view of the property, and it shows a semi-truck kind of back into the property there. I did that a month or so ago, and that would be in the case of a full-size semi-truck, which we rarely if ever see. But it has the ability to circle around that lot, do all the loading and unloading on the property that we're interested in leasing. It would involve some use of the public alleyway. It would involve some use of the public parking lot for pulling in or out. But it's a community asset for all to use. And restricting that use actually landlocks that building in the sense that we could not perform our job.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you in there working now?
No.
You said you got a delivery today.
Oh, that was delivered where we're at. Not
It's his
there.
other shop.
Not here in
Yeah,
Armada.
no.
I was gonna ask you, how did that truck deliver here in Armada
Yeah,
today then?
no, it's
Okay,
not.
somewhere else.
Through the building?
I don't think that's a real practical application, because it would be very difficult for some of these trucks, even though they're smaller trucks, to make the turn off of Main Street, Fulton.
Yeah.
No.
By the way, I am local. I consider myself local. I had 2 kids graduate out of school here. We've been out here for 20 years, so I understand the community. I understand the thought process. And we're looking forward to bringing 6 people into work in the town. They're gonna spend money at the restaurants and the gas station and everywhere else. And these are not people from Armada. I'll be bringing them from Shelby, Clinton Township, New Haven, Sterling Heights.
How mad are they at you for moving out here then? They
Well,
gotta drive further.
They're already used to driving.
I've got a question, but it's for Ed. The makeup of the parking lot versus the makeup of the alley, are they much different?
They're probably pretty close to the same, I would think, but I look for some prints on that parking lot, and I know they're here somewhere, but I don't know where they're at. to tell you the
Because my
thickness.
main concern is the possible breakdown of our parking lot.
I would-
But with the amount of semis I know that go through the back alley on a daily basis, you know, but, you know, you talk about some smaller trucks, but sometimes your delivery might be part of a rather large truck. And I just want to make sure that our parking lot can take the abuse of
Well,
the legal size semi in that parking lot
that-
over time.
That feathers on what I was saying. The assumption is that it's big trucks and big deliveries. It's not, they're medium duty. On the pickup trucks, when we have a crated product that's 250 pounds, when that truck shows up, it's an ABA freight carrier, but they send us the short bus. We've always got it from them, they just know it. And I can say that 9 out of 10 times when we lift that gate, the loaded product in there, the truck's empty, because they make their deliveries in the morning and pick up in the afternoon. I'm a pickup. And more often than not, that truck is empty when he shows up. We're putting 250 pounds on it, shipping.
So I have a question for you. When you did this schematic of the truck, you're actually talking about them backing in and then pulling out straight.
Actually, after drawing that, we discovered that it's easy for a truck to come in through the alleyway, which is one way in the right direction, and make the turn around the existing, is it the,
The easement?
well,
Well, it's
the
all my
building-
property.
the building out in the back there where they have the.
Printware.
Printware.
Yeah.
They would actually circle around that building.
And that
So they're
that
go back.
circumference right there is enough for a semi to turn?
Yes, it is.
That's
But you'll
tight.
notice in that photograph, there's a car parked there.
Yeah.
It says no parking, but there's a car there every day.
Right.
We've got to program somebody that they can't park.
Right there? Only goes to
And that was gonna be my other question. This is a open parking lot, so you could have a big truck parking there and blocking.
No, there wouldn't be any truck parking. They'd be fully on the property. They only.
Right, no, I'm talking, on this part, it is a village parking lot. Anyone can park there.
Right.
Right, so if you have a large truck there, that would limit your circumference
I
for
didn't
it.
have a large truck there. There's no need for it to be in that lot. Everything takes place behind the building. They only pull out through that lot to exit.
Mhm.
So there wouldn't be any loading or
Just at the
unloading
end.
off of the property, nor blocking any public access.
Right,
And what would Plan B be if the parking lot were full of cars?
It wouldn't affect it, because the truck just pulls out. They're not, unless they're parked in the middle of the parking.
Okay, so you just
truck.
need the easement out or the
That's
egress
right.
out?
That's
Okay.
right, be able to get out.
Okay.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Maybe you can answer this, Mr. Hezzo. The building that's just north of where they're gonna make their turn, there's that little white building, there's a car there.
Yeah,
Is that,
that's all my property.
how far, your property goes right up to the alley? I know it
Yeah, in
does
fact, that
here.
little building is partly on my property.
Okay, but that car is not yours.
No, but it's on my property.
So you can have them move it.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think back to Burns Auto, we had those as all your spaces, I do
Yeah.
recall.
yeah,
I just wanted to make sure that you're
yeah.
not gonna sideswipe a vehicle.
Yeah, that's all on
That
my
they
property.
have rights to park in there.
Yeah.
those were
Does the
handicap,
parts-
weren't they?
Does the parts store use that little building or something?
Yeah, in fact, they have a delivery truck that does the same thing. They make a delivery like 5 a.m. in the morning all the time. And they must have a key to it because they lift the door up and shove everything in and take off and they're gone. But that's kind of like their warehouse.
So they own that building though?
Yeah, and that building never should have been put there, but they did that way before anybody ever cared to make rules. But it was supposed to be for parking, for for the auto parts. Instead, they put a little building there, and now they got no parking. So, but that was a long time ago,
How much of that building's on your property then?
about 6 inches.
Oh, 6 inches, that's.
Yeah, but still, the door to get into it, if you were inside the building, you lifted the door up, you'd go walk out, the first step you took, you're on my property, that's all my property. So they really need to turn the door and face the alley, is what they need to do. But they got a big old guardrail there.
I have one more question for you. I know that when Mr. Burns owned, or not owned, rented or leased your
I
facility.
get it, yeah.
There was an issue with the garbage trucks. Remember they would, and I talked to you about this, Ed, remember the water was a problem. How did the garbage trucks go in?
Well,
Because I know they use your property, I'm not disagreeing.
and I want to
with
use
you.
the garbage truck for another illustration as well. Everybody uses my property. Okay, the parking lot that you're talking about used to be my property. I sold it to you guys, and then I effectively landlocked myself by selling it to you. But
He didn't give it to us, he sold it.
But to answer your question, this truck, or something very, very close to it, much heavier than what he's talking about, makes 2 or 3 trips a week, every week, through that parking lot to pick up Papa's dumpster, and used to pick up our dumpster when we did it. In addition to that, I'm going to quickly pass this out, because this is a very brief history of the activity of my building. And I want to stress that what he's talking about using it for is nothing new. Not even,
I'll share with Mark.
that's okay, I got a bunch.
All right.
I've had, in fact, this is the first we've ever heard of that semi-trucks were a real big issue, because I see semi-trucks in the town all the time. In fact, even over there by, on the other side of the street, they'll just stop the Pepsi truck right in the middle of the road and effectively turn it into a one-lane road for, maybe 15 minutes while they're servicing the Subway and the pizza place and all that. So what we're talking about here is so minimally affecting everything. In fact, this is in my opinion, the best thing that the village could possibly have for use for my 10,000 square foot should not have been put there in the first place building. But it's there. And to turn it into what it's used to be, we've used it previously for auto repair. Well, what he's talking about is putting 6 cars there, and that's about it. There's no real new parking that's needed, or pedestrian traffic or anything like that. It's nobody's going to even know he's there, basically. You probably didn't know there was a wheel manufacturer in there when we had that. And that was there for a few years till the investors got bought out by a Kansas City outfit and moved everything to Missouri. So almost everything that's done in that building doesn't really affect the people in the neighborhood. In fact, when people come in there, they go, "Huh, I didn't even know it was this big." They don't know. They know very little about that building, and they're going to continue to know very little about that building if he shows up, and I want him to be in there. So the other thing I wanted to briefly mention on is retail, because I know I'm basically a shoo-in if I had something retail, but that building is just not a retail building. Every retail, whatever I've had put in there, lasts till the guy runs out of money and we're done. None of them really make money. retail. And I've had several in there, I've listed them. The car places, auto repair, they make money, that's fine, but the two owners basically self-destructed or health issues or whatever. And it would be much more activity, much more traffic, much more cars. Him, again, 6 people, and every now and then you got a truck that comes and drops something off or picks something up. It's so commonsensical to me to say, get this guy in here, and let's move on. And that's really what I would like to see. It would be helpful to me that I've got somebody with some stability as well. The retail people, there's no such thing as stability with them. And as far as retail and retail space, I got 2 big long articles here from experts that are telling people retail space, retail business in America is on the way out. We've got state-of-the-art, I mentioned it here, state-of-the-art building here right on the corner. We know the lady.
That's the new building.
Yeah, the new build, new 3-story building, elevator, basement, basically it's 4 stories with the basement. She's never, in 6 years that she's owned this thing, was able to lease out or rent out her retail space. The 1st story or the 2nd story. She has a corner that she uses, but she don't even need to. She could still operate out of her house if she wanted to, but she owns the building, paying taxes on it, so she may as well. So that's why she's there. But retail, if we could find somebody that's doing something that's in a non-retail activity, I say go for it.
Mr. Easley, you mentioned the fact that parking for roughly 6 vehicles, which would be the employees, would they be parking on your property, or would they taking up space in the village parking lot?
No, they don't let us use the village
I can
parking.
answer that. It would be strictly on the property.
Yeah.
We have,
Just so we just so anybody else would ask.
I haven't had a client come and visit us in 7 years. So I don't expect a lot of outside traffic. There's very little activity. We just need more space. And you said something interesting. When I saw the building for lease, I drove by it for weeks. It's just a little building. I wasn't interested in it. One day I got out and looked at it, went inside, went, wow, look at this place. This is great. It's an ideal fit. We'll do our business inside those walls, not disturb anybody. Don't expect a lot of traffic. I don't even need my name on the building.
What is your hours like, projection?
Well, if guys get in on time, they start at by 8 o'clock, but that doesn't happen often enough. And then we work till late afternoon, sometimes early evening, but we're out there usually.
You know, we're not approving that.
No, no, no. Well, I mean,
All
it's
we're
just-
talking about
Just a
here,
question for the use of the parking and that's it, in other words, you know. So
we need to know if the village would allow him to use that parking lot or not. Is it that you know, forget all the other stuff?
Correct.
Can they use the parking lot or not?
And-
What's your concern about the
And I
parking
can frame
lot?
that saying not use of the
The
parking lot,
rest
but
of the
passing through.
business is with the planning commission.
Right.
Leave it up to them. But I had 3 things. My concern, and I know you took a nice photo of the Cisco truck, is backing up. I always get nervous when a semi or a larger vehicle's backing up. And I don't know, maybe that should be deferred to the police to talk about that, even with the Cisco trucks. But the second thing was locking in for long term. Obviously, we have an issue with one of our businesses where 20-some years ago, when I wasn't in Armada, you guys committed to a certain SALU or whatever happened. And while you might use it, this certain kind of semi with only 250 pounds weight in there, I think if planning does go forward, there needs to be very, very specific criteria that can be met, you know. We've talked about this before with planning where, you know, if you see something that's wrong, we gotta, you know, the phrase nip it in the butt while we can. And then 3, I'd like to just know if Ed had any issues from a village standpoint, then I would defer it to planning, you know. I'm, like you said, I'm not here to talk about the hours or, that's for them
Well,
to
it's just
decide.
sort of
Right,
Yeah.
we don't want you to do that.
Right.
No, just sort of an idea, you know.
Did you have anything else, Ed?
No,
as
not
the
really,
expert?
You know, he brought up a valid point about that garbage truck turning around in here, and that
Yeah.
hasn't really done any damage to anything, so.
Just to your parking lot, sorry, whoever I want to point at, the dirt, because I remember they,
Right.
Paul used to be upset because it would then cause the water to sit and then the water didn't drain and all the ice and all that. It was a problem with the garbage trucks, but that's more usage than you're talking, so.
I don't think turning or backing up is an issue, because the way I see that plan is it comes in the one way of the alley, pulls
Yeah.
onto the property, loads or unloads, and then exits through the public
Right.
lot, but doesn't do any activities on those, just passage through.
How often do you have those trucks come through, did you say?
I can count on one hand how many times they've been there in the last month, so if they're once a week, I'm surprised.
So if there is another load that's being unloaded for one of the other vendors, they would just wait for them to move?
Yeah, I would imagine, I don't.
Because that alley's not gonna support 2 semis going through it, or 2 big trucks going through it.
No, those, the alley has multiple, in the morning anyway, they have multiple trucks all the time. And
Right.
truck drivers understand that.
Correct.
They're in the business of hurrying up and waiting. And-
Right.
And that's what that
That's why
alley.
I don't want honking horns at
No,
4
no.
o'clock in the
They
morning
wait their
and.
turns usually.
No.
Yeah.
The pickups are late in the afternoon, most of those retail deliveries are gone.
Ben, you had a question?
You can,
Oh, Lyle.
Mr. President, according to our agenda statement here, our summary, it says the clerk has talked to our attorney. And his suggestion is that the council postpone until an agreement can be written between the village and the business owner.
But in light of the new stuff that he said, I'd like to just relay that to Jeff.
Exactly.
Too, because he may, you know, in light of what you've said tonight, he may say, oh, no,
Yeah.
just put it over the planning and then be done.
Exactly, that's why
Yeah.
I'd like to postpone our decision on this with no.
If we need one, we may,
Right.
we may not need one.
Right. If we need one, then we'll bring it back at our next meeting and do it. It'll be 2 weeks. If we do not, then if Jeff sends the letter out to refer to planning, hey, we just drop it off our agenda.
When is your next meeting, Ben?
February 11th.
February 11th.
So
And
you're
we're having
after
a
our
public
meeting.
hearing, aren't we,
At the public hearing.
on this?
Yeah.
So you're after us, so either way.
Yeah, but if I may interject, if council didn't want to do it, then he's gonna pull the public hearing. Sorry, one of you guys would pull the public hearing, right? Didn't I read that in the minutes somewhere?
Correct.
So it's kind of determined on what direction council wants to go, so it's kind of,
And we won't know until we give all of the particulars that we received tonight to our attorney, correct?
Yeah, which you could know this week. I mean,
Okay, so if I could interject. So a few things, the picture, the county fresh truck is on their own property. I disagree with the truck being able to turn all around in a U-turn. A short, single axle truck could do that, but in order for a semi to do that, there's the northern part of this building, the parking for that building is on the back side of the building. So you'd have to delete that parking in order to make this a clear turn, and then that would be a tight turn as it is with the semi truck.
Got plenty of parking to the south. That won't even be an issue.
I've watched those short trucks get into my driveway, and if they can get in there, I'm impressed. But they wouldn't have any issue on this turnaround here.
Well, I'm not saying that, but looking at this drawing, knowing where the parking lies, and even this, in your parking thing, when you came to planning, there's a parking spot right here on the back southwest corner of the API building. That parking spot would be deleted because of the truck turn. So I'm not saying that this shouldn't be approved, but I do believe that it should be, if it's approved, and as far as planning goes, this is a special approval land use, which would fit because that downtown area, there's a lot of special approval in the industrial area, so that's not the concern. The concern is the use of the parking lot. And I talked with some other people in other small towns, and they do allow people to use the parking lot as of this. The only thing I would say is enter into an agreement with them, and that's up to you guys. But
so is there an issue with unloading in the alley?
You're not gonna be able to do it all the time.
No, right, no, there would be there's no reason to that I can see.
Yeah, they're not planning on
Because we can do it on the property.
Yeah.
And this, I don't know that this drawing is to a real scale. but-
Well, and I disagree that the trucks can be able to come in. I think sometimes the trucks are gonna back in the parking lot.
I'd say 90% of the time. I mean, I drove a semi for a few years, and I see them pulling in the Bowleys and the others, and it's rather quick. I mean, they're in, they're out, he's not gonna be messing up.
What's the range of the short axle trucks?
It's more of a safety issue.
Yeah.
And so if he brings a spotter out there when the truck comes, what's the problem with that?
Well, the only thing that I can tell you is that planning about 15 years ago approved something like this. They backed the semi down a main street, or not a main street, but a side street.
Yeah.
They had spotters, they backed right over a car. So, I mean.
Well, we
and
would
then,
use
so, like,
spotters in our line.
if the village approves this, then my suggestion is that there's gotta be some type of a legal agreement. So other than that, planning, you know, if
Well,
what we wanted to do,
Well-
well, yes,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
what
but-
we wanted to do is have the applicant come to the council meeting before we started the special approval process and charged them they've already paid the money, but if it wasn't gonna fly here, then they were just gonna get a refund, rather than going through planning, and then coming here and then not being approved.
Then also, in other words, with the front on Fulton, with the large garage door there on Fulton, and there is a parking allowed in front of the building,
Mhm.
is it possible they'd be able to unload in front of the
No.
building
No. There's not enough room.
without backing into the garage door? Is that,
There's not enough room even to get a semi in there. Even a straight truck, there's not enough room. So the truck that they have, the L roll picture that they have truck, or
Okay.
pictured, they don't have enough room to get that in.
that's the question then, okay.
You talking about backing up into the building?
No, the
That
question-
L-road truck could
the
easily
question-
do that.
The question was about loading on the front, and it's
Yeah.
much more practical than that.
Yeah,
Sure,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, either way, yeah, the back is,
Less obstructive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can move this on, we gotta get hold of them. Yeah, okay.
Well, I think we take it under advisement, then talk with the attorney, and we'll postpone it till then you have to.
Okay, so the only thing that I would ask is to help the applicant out is that you would have a decision prior to our planning commission meeting of Wednesday, the 11th.
We'll have a meeting on the
Sure.
9th or whatever, yeah.
So just before, couple
Yeah.
days before then, most likely.
Well, and I mean, as soon as we have anything, Jeff has anything written up, I mean, usually the way we do things is we get the agreement, you look at it, we look at it,
I have no idea what those what that
Yeah.
form would be.
Yeah, it's depending on what he has in it, but,
I would think it would be basically an indemnity clause.
yeah, we both gotta, everybody's just gotta agree and be on
Yeah.
the same page.
Would it be the same type of agreement you have right now with Waste Management?
No, it would not.
Would
I
not.
figured that.
Well,
Okay.
they're not gonna back up either. Backing up is
Oh, they back up.
it's not the same, Mark.
Okay, so
Mr. Rizzo, I think you do an awesome job of promoting your property. You are always in here, you guys are always finding great people and great businesses for our downtown. I wanna thank you for that. You
Okay.
really do an awesome job. I personally think we need to go to the attorney just so we can get all our i's dotted and our t's are crossed and really do it the right way. Because we don't wanna do something and then go back and say, oh darn, now we gotta do this, and oh darn, now we gotta do that. I'd like it to be clear cut,
Yeah.
and then we can just move on.
Right.
And I think you guys would like that too.
And not only that, all of us aren't gonna be here in,
20 years.
20 years from now, when you're still in business sitting
No, I
here.
won't be here.
Don't tell
Maybe
your
your
landlord
kids.
that, he got one cheap.
Only Dave will still be here.
Dave and Ben will still be here.
I'm hoping the meeting's over by then.
Okay, well, so that's what we'll be doing. We'll be contacting our village attorney, and we'll go from there and see if we can kind of agreement or something going with it.
Mr. President, we're just concerned about them using our parking lot.
Yes.
Whether
No,
there's enough
anything
turning
else?
radius, that's planning also.
That's up,
We're just talking about backing up and going forward in that parking lot.
In that parking lot.
Okay,
Passage to the parking lot.
yes.
that's all we're worried about.
Right.
Planning,
That's
don't worry about the
what
rest.
I would like to add one thing. I hope you find it favorable for us. I'm trying real hard not to relocate the business further south. I came up from Clinton Township, and I have no ambition to go back down.
Yeah.
Where are you
I
now?
was real happy to find it. I can't tell you.
Oh.
Very secret location.
That's
Well, you're the second person that told me that today.
My place
so-
to visit us. We work off of some residential.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, folks, for coming into the meeting.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank you.
Planning Commission budget for zoning amendments.
Okay, I think this is my issue.
Yes.
Stick around, Ben.
One of many? No.
Not on the agenda.
Now, this is concerning the party store. For our ordinances for the sale of beer, wine, liquor, we have a generic ordinance, kind of like we have with the fire code and, the state building code and things like that. And one of the things for the sale of liquor, our ordinance says you cannot have a business selling beer, wine, or liquor within 1,000 feet of a school, of a church, of another establishment that sells that. Now again, that was put there as part of the generic when we adopted, I guess, the master plan years ago, a few years back.
The zoning ordinance and
Yeah.
it mirrored the state.
Right. Now, as you know, of course, you got Chaps and Fosters that are closer than 1,000, 1,000 feet. So we don't have that situation in here. They're like grandfathered in, so they were exempt from that ordinance. The problem here is for these folks who own the new party store is, that's a very important part of their business. As you know, just about any party store I know sells at least beer and wine. And that's what they want to be able to do. They say they can get a license through the state. They've already contacted them. They say they could do that, but even if they got that through the state, they could not do it because of our ordinance. Now, we're going to be, this year, and when you look at the 215 intentions, making changes to the ordinance. And it was hoped that we do everything all at once, which of course would push it further down the loop. But in order to try to accommodate these people, and Ben's talked to the planner, there would be a couple changes, but it would probably cost us about $500 up front to make a change to our ordinance. Now, Ben, you talked to, is it Amy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Am
So-
I saying this right?
Kind of, but so, we did have a whole list of ordinance changes. So if we did this all together, and we would save $500 by doing this all together. So it's gonna cost us an extra $500 to separate it off. So, because the planner comes to the special approval meeting. So there's one meeting, it's $500 to come to the meeting, plus whatever it's gonna cost to do the writing. So her estimate was $500 to $750 to do the liquor license separate from everything else. And all the other things are only $1,000 to $1,300 together.
But the problem is if we wanna, and hey, when they came in, Ben told them it could be a long process, meaning it might take a year or so. It's not that they didn't know that, but now they're pressuring us because they would like to have those sales, because it really affects their business not having myself, I don't like empty stores. If we can help them, I would like to do that. Now, I don't know if it's possible to pass that expense on to them. It's not something we've done in the past, but I would like to help them.
Are we gonna be, excuse me, are we gonna be up against the same thing with the new supermarket then? Because it's been closed for so long that they wouldn't be able to do it either, and they're gonna need this also?
I wouldn't think so because the license is written for that location. So it was at that location, so sure, it's been closed, but this isn't something new that's never been there before.
Right.
So, I guess if you really went technical and did the grandfather thing, it only lasts for a year.
So they may find use of this change as well.
But excuse me?
They would find this beneficial, this change as well then, the new grocery store.
I think the grocery store would be approved no matter what.
We don't think they need it. But these guys
I thought the
definitely
liquor
do.
license was in the owner's name, not the property name. If I'm
Well, we're
right.
not maybe talking
Maybe
just
they
liquor,
buy
we're
it.
talking the beer.
No,
Right now, we're
I
talking
was
about
talking
the
liquor.
department store. We're not talking about,
Right, we asked
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
it be beneficial for the grocery store if we did this too? Right.
well, it's not, to
Yes and
me.
no. So-
On the planning commission, we all agree that the 1,000 feet should be out of
Well,
it.
it has to be.
Because, I mean,
Our
you
whole
already
downtown's
have
1,000
it,
feet, isn't
you
it?
know, it's just when you do it.
Mhm.
Myself, I'd like to accommodate them.
But you said there's other amendments that you're gonna be making as well?
Yeah, there's about 5 or 6 of them.
Okay.
Actually.
And you're not looking at doing those right away in the budget year, or are you?
Well,
looking-
yeah, I mean, we can't do anything till the new budget year, so 2015, so that's April. So, yeah, we were gonna put it in the budget, and you had to approve the budget for us to even go ahead, but I did have estimates for the change.
But will you be ready, like in April, to go forward with all of these amendments, zoning ordinance amendments? Or are you looking at December?
To go forward means you're gonna start working on it.
Yeah.
So are they all written?
Well, that's,
No.
that was my
That-
question.
It's a long process.
Here's my
I mean,
question.
there's a public hearing.
Yeah.
So first you have to get, you come up with what you're gonna write,
Right,
and,
I know.
well,
Yeah,
so,
I know.
I mean, so what's right
Might
away?
not, so if you could tell them, but
So
yeah.
I mean, just kind of to clarify for the audience, and we know what it is, but
Right.
clarify it to the audience,
Yeah.
first you have to discuss what you're gonna change, how you're gonna change it, how you're gonna word it, you give it to the planner, let them write it, and then when that's written, then you come back to another, you set a public hearing, 2 weeks in advance, and then you do something, and then we pass it, and then we send it to council for approval.
My question is, if we streamline this, because if we wait for that, it'll take longer to put this through. But if we streamline it, it's gonna cost at least $100, or at least $500,
Up to 700.
plus maybe a little more.
Yeah, it's gonna cost $500 plus.
Are you willing to do that? I guess the question is yes or no.
Streamline it how?
Just handling it as a separate item
He wants
to
to do
get it
that
through.
separately.
Now,
That's
we-
So that
line
these
item.
people
Yeah.
could sell beer and wine sooner.
But you're still talking about next year's budget.
Correct.
I'm thinking it'd be after April 1st.
Yeah, well, I mean, because this is budget discussions
Yeah,
too, I mean.
But again, we would have to authorize an additional amount of money to streamline.
Right,
And that was one of the questions that Ben had, that, we control the purse strings. So it's pretty simple.
How important are the other changes?
Is it yes or is it no?
They all need to be done.
At some point, but not as a dire emergency as this one.
No, well, you couldn't do them all. I mean, if we're gonna do them all, then it's gonna take us months. Can we do
Yeah.
one thing and do
Right.
it fast? Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna do them all, I mean, there's a definition that's gotta
Oh,
be
yeah.
changed. I
Right.
mean, there's quite a few.
Are you talking about doing more than one in one budget year, or are you talking about one per
Oh,
budget?
we're gonna do them all at one time. So we'd only have one public hearing and do them all. So
That
like,
was
if we
your
do it this
initial
way, we'll
plan.
have 2 public hearings. We'll do one
do this
for
and
the
then do the
liquor
rest of them.
license, and we'll do one for all the rest of our amendment.
And incidentally, it's just beer and wine they're talking about there, not liquor.
Yeah, but it's still a liquor license.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I just want to clarify.
Right.
Well, personally, I don't have a problem to have a viable business
Business.
downtown to do this.
I
It's
agree.
gotta be done anyway. We're just doing it a little sooner than we would.
And it's gonna cost more.
normally. It's gonna cost us a little bit to do it this way, that's all.
Well, my only concern is, and I agree with Dave, I'd love to help this business, I'd love to get things pushed along as streamlined as we can. But there are limitations, it's gonna keep jumping in front of you. You can't just arbitrarily take that 1,000 feet out. What are you gonna put back in? How long is it
I
gonna
don't
take
think
you
we're
to
gonna put
deliberate on
anything.
that? You can't just say there's no.
You know what, we arbitrarily put it in, Joe. We just
No,
took
No,
somebody
you
else.
no, we
No,
did
you
not
didn't.
arbitrarily put it
No.
in.
State.
We matched the state ordinance.
Oh, right.
Exactly. There
It's
was
not
a lot
But
of-
again, we didn't choose 1,000 for some reason, we just took a
The
cookie
state.
cutter
We
approach.
matched the state
Matched
ordinance.
the
But
state.
if I could interject, so in answer to Joe's question, in the state ordinance, it does have, there is a caveat that if the school or church writes a letter saying it's okay, then they can amend that ordinance or
Waive their
a
restriction.
special approval, such a
What
thing.
did-
So there is a precedent to do what we're asking.
What did the ordinance say before?
2002, I don't know.
We'd have to, I've got this, I bet you I
Couldn't
got
better
this.
It doesn't matter. It
Well,
doesn't
because-
matter.
Yeah. I'm just
Well,
curious,
yeah.
because Marathon's right next to a church.
Well, the old corner store, the building they're in now, my daughter worked there many years ago, they sold beer and wine. When Alfonsi had that, they sold beer and wine and
Yeah.
that's right across the street from Cozy's.
Would have been the same, well, no, it probably would have been before the
Correct, it was.
change.
Yeah.
But,
My first thought was we just, you give the recommendation, we approve it with the understanding it was gonna be rewritten, but then that's not having a public hearing. And we don't wanna get burned by not having a public hearing.
So we gotta have public.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got.
But I thought you could just do it in order to save money,
Yeah.
a temporary
And I
approval.
think for the
Yeah, it's gotta be.
ordinance, we have to have that.
yeah. Well, I think in the end, this is just, it's a budget discussion. It's gonna have to be put in the budget and
But again, we gotta give, I wanna give Ben some, tonight, to pursue going forward, or no, we're gonna wait for everything else.
I would say move forward on it.
Move forward.
Sure.
are you making a motion on that, or
No,
you
I
just?
won't make a motion on that.
Well, what would be the motion?
I'm not sure,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Quite
don't
sure
know,
we need a
that's my,
motion.
that's
No,
my
you don't need-
question.
we don't have all the expenses to make that, but.
Well, yeah, you do. It's gonna cost between $500 and $750 to do that ordinance change
That's
as it
the-
stands.
But that's also gonna get us into the next budget year, correct?
Yeah.
So Ben
There-
can start proceeding,
Right.
heading that direction and we'll.
And
We'll
then
just
when
put it
the
in the
budget's
budget.
done, then it'll be
Yeah,
ready.
then
Well,
to
should
go.
I'll make the motion to
So if I could,
authorize.
just one more thing.
I'm sorry.
So, I'm sorry, I apologize. But the only last consideration is you're setting a precedent. So other than that, that's all I want to
I
say.
agree, I think we're setting a precedent that we are willing to work with our businesses.
Well,
And
I'm
you
looking-
can pass it
again,
on to the ABA for me.
Again, I'm just looking back in
I know who it
history
is.
of how many places have sold beer and wine over the years, and it's gonna be no different than what we've had before. We're just kind of putting things back, allowing it.
Well, without the budget, I can't see making any kind of motions right now.
Well, I wanted to make the motion, Mark, so that Ben feels comfortable to work with our planner on
Well,
that.
actually, you don't have to make a motion. You could make a motion if you wanted to, but, so you're not approving the budget, but if you did do something at this point, we could start the process if you so desire, and when the budget comes in, we could be ready to act. So if you wait until the budget thing and wait until April 1st, then we start at April 1st, instead of starting in the end of January.
Well, we have intent to put the money in the way it sounds.
But you can't make a motion to approve a budget item
No,
without the public hearing on the
Without the
budget,
public
approving the
hearing.
budget.
correct.
So
All you
I
really.
mean, intent probably is the best thing you can say. It is our intention to go forward with this.
Sure.
And I think it's like a straw vote. He's got a straw vote from the board.
Yeah.
Can always make a budget amendment.
But right now you don't make a budget amendment because you don't
Yeah,
have
we
a
don't even,
budget.
Yeah, no
we don't
budget.
have it ready, yeah. Well, I mean, you mean to this year?
This year's
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah, you could do this year,
We
but
already have some, I'm sure.
But we're not
You're-
Well, if you're,
gonna
if you're
spend
gonna
it.
do that, bring it back to the next meeting.
I'm not ready.
That's
No,
probably.
I would say we're not gonna do that because we won't be ready to spend
They
that
won't
money.
spend it.
Right.
Well, Ben's
Do you
got-
feel comfortable here, Ben?
well, I'm more confused now than I was before we started this.
What are you
Well, that was
confused
easy.
about?
Ben's not more confused.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. Is there a consensus to do this?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so that's all I need. So if there's a consensus, I'll move forward.
I was gonna say, we already have a straw vote like.
So
Is
we'll
what I'm
look at
reading.
what the new wording's gonna be, and then wait until the budget hearings come. And we already told the applicant that nothing could happen until April 1st. But if there's a consensus, then maybe we can do stuff. But
So can
our
we-
our February meeting is jam-packed. So, I mean, we're gonna have a long meeting. It's actually a double public hearing. There's 3 applicants coming in. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 3 applicants. So that puts us into March. So we could actually do something at March's meeting, hopefully, and then actually do something in April.
Can we make a motion for the planning commission to research and get all the options
I
and
was just gonna
timelines
say to
available?
authorize the planning commission chairman to proceed with the planner to amend the village ordinance. Do you have a section number or anything, or for the liquor license?
I don't know. if it's
To
in
amend the
here.
definition of packaged liquor store.
We could reference,
You can reference
Okay.
McKenna project number 20410.
yep, yep,
It's right on here.
yeah, it
It's
is.
on the next page.
Yeah.
McKenna project number.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so your motion's gonna be to authorize the planning commission chairman to proceed with the planner to amend, what did you say?
The
Packaged
definition, it's right there in the paragraph.
Yeah, it's right in your
Should a
description.
Yeah,
liquor store. Okay.
Per,
Amend the
per
def-
project number 20410.
Definition of package liquor store.
Per McKenna Associates.
All right, per McKenna project number 20410. Okay, so.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support it.
Moved and supported. Any further discussion?
Oh, wait, no.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Now you're not confused.
There,
Now you know. what
got it?
At this time, is the up and coming agenda items, any new ones?
Yeah, we'll be bringing back the village parking lot.
Okay. And now, citizens' comments. Anyone else in the audience would like to address the council? Mr. Hill.
well, I've always told council that I really wanted to get you guys involved in planning. I feel like I did my job tonight.
Oh.
That's enough, Ben.
That was our crash course in planning commission.
Very good, thank you, Mr.
Awesome.
Hill.
As a brush up thing.
Yeah.
All right, at this time, council comments. Any?
You know, there's one thing that I think, if you don't mind, Mr. President, I will try not to take up too much time. You know, I've been working on this S2 grant, and I know Lyle's in deep with the road projects, and he's got a lot going on. And I haven't been around like some of you guys, but at some point, have we talked about in the past, or should we consider in the future, like a village manager? I know Romeo at one point recently went to it. I don't know how they do it, how they structured it or anything like that. My concern is that we have trustees running projects. And no disrespect to you, Lyle, I know you give it 110%. We're not engineers. We're not full-time employees. And I don't want to get burned on something that we're not in the place to supervise. We have a lot going to happen, especially with the S2. I mean, I've spent so many hours on this project. And I'm not complaining about the money part of it. I just don't want to miss it because it's not my full-time job. Steve, you're gonna have water projects, and Lyle's got street projects that he can't even think of right now. And I know Sherry has a commission, or a chief, and you don't have anything, Harry says probably doesn't need anybody to help, but I just wonder if that's something we need to look at again, if you've even looked at in the past.
Well, we
Okay,
have
that's
looked at
what-
this in the past.
Many
Okay.
The
times.
problem
Yeah.
has been that
Then,
to pay
Like-
somebody $50,000-$60,000 plus benefits, we haven't found that spot in the budget, especially when we're running a negative budget, and it looks like it's gonna be even worse with the DDA coming in. That's kind of been the problem on that. We've wanted that for a long time, to take the pressure off the trustees from doing so much, but we talked about it under Nancy, we talked about it, we talked about it under Lyle, and we just couldn't see how to do it.
and now for a good village manager, it's more than 50 or 60,000.
Well, yeah, well,
Yeah.
first of all, you're gonna have your department heads reporting, somewhat reporting to that village manager.
All the way.
So again, 60,000 is probably a low estimate,
It
you're
is
right,
a low
Michelle.
estimate, yeah.
You mentioned Romeo. I think Romeo has an administrator now,
Yeah, they,
where Marion McLaughlin was. And she did an excellent job in coverage.
She was
And,
great.
you know, the thing is that now they just appointed another one now.
But she
so-
also got the pay, her clerk's pay,
Right.
and the village manager's pay.
Right.
And she did a good job. She started up there and she was in there, what, 30 years roughly?
Yep.
So the thing is, you know, that's what it's gonna take, David. You're right on the right track, you know, so.
We couldn't, we haven't been able to find $10 to give it to the trustees or the president.
But you
Nothing.
think back to like the Spicer Road project, and I know Sherry, you spent hours on it, maybe some help with Lyle, maybe you too, Steve. It's a lot of work for the $100 a month.
Yeah.
And had we had a village manager or somebody
Oh, absolutely.
on the job every day from the village office, maybe that project would have went in a different direction. We could have saved $120,000, maybe. You know, I get nervous about what we're getting into in the next 1 year to 5 years, if you look the 5 years out, and it just makes me nervous that we're gonna get burned.
You know, the other thing though, Mike, and I've seen it, how many times have you read about these cities trying to fire their managers? Sterling Heights went through a number of times. Elmont's been into it. There's, it's not necessarily the answer for everything either.
No, but I don't think that an accountant should be running a sewer project at $1 million or whatever.
Yeah. I don't think we would have
Or
anybody.
a retiree running a $2 million street project.
I don't, that's why we hire good engineers, Mike.
yeah, I mean, you gotta trust.
You gotta trust
that-
somebody.
Yet
You're
we
not
pick-
necessarily
work out
gonna
on
get an
North
engineer to be the
I
manager.
wasn't here for North Fulton.
I don't, some
Yeah.
guys,
Yet we
Because they
pick
got the
those
best.
guys apart like they don't know what they're talking
I was an
about, but we
engineer
have
after
them.
that mess.
Well, this council over the years has done a good job. And, I mean, we respected them, and a lot of them are gone, God bless their souls. But the thing is, this council too has done, what I've seen since I've been on it, has been real good. Real good, and saved a lot of money. And some we can control and some we can't, naturally, period. But I think in general, naturally, we'd all love to have a city manager or general manager of some sort. But it's just money-wise, we can't do it right now, so. And yes, the council has suffered, by not getting any wage increases, even $5 or $10 a month. And so maybe somewhere along the line, we better start thinking about something like that too. So with the dedication that the people have sat at this table for.
Well, maybe sorry, Dave, but maybe Dave and Harry, who don't have as much to do, could help out in some areas too.
Or the clerk could do more.
No, don't even go there and not do
Well,
it. I mean,
Although, you went there, we could go
We
there.
could extend our hours, that's for sure.
yeah. I work the hours I'm supposed to. All my work
This
is
is going in
done.
the right direction.
It's solved real quick.
At this time, any community events? There's no
Wednesday night
closed
is
session?
the talent show at the high
Pardon?
school. Wednesday night is the talent show at the high school. 28.
28th at Talent Show.
7 o'clock.
Very good. And there's no closed session at this time. The next is adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and supported, any further
Yay.
discussion? Meeting adjourned.
At 8:52.